Well, Valverde's statement is absolutely ridiculous. Welcome, Madridistas. How are we doing? I think a captain can't express himself like that, and above all, he can't let things escalate the way they did. The captain of Real Madrid, man. I really want to emphasize this because I think it's very serious that when Carvajal leaves, this guy stays. But what is this? Therefore, for me, one of the measures Real Madrid has to take is to take the captaincy away from this guy now. Sell them both? I don't want that. To me, they seem like two great players to build or keep building something positive for the coming years, because the problem isn't just with them, not at all. It's with the squad and with getting a coach that the squad will listen to and that the president will back, because that's one of the things. Well, there are a lot of things I've tried to gather from the last few hours, a lot of information. Let's lay it out and reflect on it. All right, let's get started. We read the statement yesterday, but one important thing about Valverde's statement is that it's terribly written. It's incredible. This man is married to a journalist. I don't know, anyway. Also, for those who say no, she writes them for him, I don't think she writes that badly. Honestly, she's a communications professional. I mean, there are some really terrible things there, but anyway, I mean, how is it possible that there aren't any? I mean, maybe, she writes it before the case file has even been opened, before Madrid has opened disciplinary proceedings. But these things, to go on such a rant like that, plus it's a whole page, the statement is endless. Think a little about your club, about the fact that you're the captain of Real Madrid, man. He says two important things. One, that Tchouaméni didn't hit him, but he doesn't mention Tchouaméni by name. He just says a teammate. And the other is that someone is going to rush off to tell someone about it, because that's another consequence. That's another consequence. And that's the one about the leaker. And it's something that really worries the club. And honestly, it would worry anyone, because it's not normal for this to happen at Madrid. And it's already happened. We're already experts in this. It's happened before, and it's unfortunate. And it's one of the reasons why they're saying Valverde to Tchouaméni. That's why the next day, now we're going to hear versions of what was said yesterday on the radio. You know that I always put everything here so we can form our own opinion without taking anything they say as gospel. He was accusing him of having leaked it. And at the same time, Tchouaméni was telling Valverde, or has been telling him for a while, or hinting to him, that he was one of those who managed to get Xavi Alonso kicked out because he had created that division in the locker room. And that's where the fight was, and the fact that it happened again. But I'll say the same thing again. As captain, you have to swallow your pride, or at least talk calmly. But how do you make an out-of-line tackle during training and then go to the locker room and cause that? It's just absurd, because if we think about who Tchouaméni is, if I ask you the following question, let's see what you answer. Put it in the comments for you between Tchouaméni and Valverde. Both should be punished, obviously. And since we don't know the full story, maybe Tchouaméni is deceiving us and is crazy, but I doubt it. But between Aurelian and Federico, who would you trust with something really important like that? Who do you think is more mature, more responsible, more of a leader, and a better captain? Since captaincy is usually based on seniority, who would you choose if it wasn't? Between the two. Answer me honestly. I think I know what you're going to say. I'll tell you what I think. Tchouaméni a million times. Not that I think Valverde is a bad guy or unprofessional, but this year he's definitely left us with doubts, right? From what we've seen, wow. But I still want Valverde on my team. But man, Tchouaméni gives me a lot more confidence as a man, as a person, as a mature guy who knows how to handle himself better in life. That's what I think. Share your thoughts in the comments. We have several topics. I don't want to forget the Mbappé thing, since I put it in the thumbnail before recording this video. I won't forget, because what's happening with that guy isn't a coincidence. That's not a coincidence. But let's go over, as I said, some things that have been said in the last few hours. Well, Abraham Romero from Mundo says that in the locker room and in the offices of Madrid, what worries them most right now are the leaks. No one trusts anyone, sources from the locker room say. It's an immature squad, people at the club say. Wow, now they realize. I say that clue Xavi dropped there in a phrase that will go down in Madrid's history. I didn't know he had come here to run a daycare. He didn't give the club any clue. They've now realized what's going on there, that it's actually an immature squad with a low IQ, because, of course, the two smartest guys there left, and two family men and two guys who were very important in there, like Kroos and Modric, who were never replaced. Because going back to it, now we're focusing a lot on the squad. But really, what Florentino and the board have done in these last 2 or 3 years is incredible. The management is terrible. Because I say it again, you don't just replace two guys with two others who more or less get there, with leadership and intelligence to raise the average level of the squad a bit and so on. But you don't even do it, at least to prevent such a sharp drop in the quality of the squad. The thing is, Kroos and Modric were guys who, in these two aspects, were fundamental at Madrid. No, they think it can become a Vinga and Valverde who take on their roles. Seriously, please, please. Well, that's the sporting department's fault. That's the sporting department's fault. If there is one, well, we already know who the sporting management is. Florentino Perez. He's accompanied by Haas. And I don't know if the other one, Anas Lagar, also has a say there, which I think he does, obviously. Well, that's it. Leaks, division, and fights, the guerrilla warfare in Madrid's powder keg. Well, and speaking of powder keg at Real Madrid, I was going to show Miguelito's thing first. Hold on, it's down here. All right, this is what Miguel Angel Diaz Miguelito said yesterday on Copi's El Partidazo about, well, the version of what happened.
Yesterday, before leaving, Valverde apologized to his teammates and took it seriously. This morning at Valdebebas, he arrived, greeted everyone, and shook hands in the locker room as usual before training, but he didn't make light of it. During training, from what I've been told, there were a couple of hard challenges from Valverde. Tchouaméni didn't react during that training session, but after the session, he did look for the vice captain of Real Madrid in the locker room to try to find out what was going on. They got into a scuffle. Yes, there were punches thrown, even though they deny it in the statements, and in the end, Fede Valverde slipped. He suffered that cut on his forehead. According to what we've learned, he even lost consciousness, and he was taken in a wheelchair to undergo the initial tests. He is resting at home, so of course he's ruled out for the Clásico. Let's see what action Real Madrid takes regarding Tchouaméni from a sporting perspective, because if Tchouaméni doesn't travel to Barcelona, obviously the midfield is going to be much weaker. And in that meeting that was organized, the one I mentioned, Jose Angel Sanchez was there, as well as the vice president of Real Madrid and the president's brother, Enrique Perez, and Manuel Redondo was also present. Some players had to return, as Carvajal said, and in that statement that Valverde made public a few hours ago, he denied that he and Tchouaméni came to blows.
Well, let me not forget to mention this either. Pay attention to this, because last night there was a report about an alleged conversation between Tchouaméni and a French influencer. Some guy who's kind of known, I have no idea, someone named Akababe, que said the following. Wait a second, because here it is. This is translated to this man through Instagram, direct messages. Something happened, but I can't say anything. Tchouaméni supposedly says here, I'm trusting Adrian's account here from Real Madrid fans. I told you nothing happened yesterday, in the sense that there was nothing that could be done. I don't know if this refers to that, because this is from yesterday and it's talking about yesterday. I mean, the first fight, no, because now it's referring to the hit. He says, I didn't hit him. That's not true. That's all I can tell you. He says to this person, supposedly Tchouaméni, his head hit the ground, he says. Of course, this would support Valverde's version that the other guy is a leaker, but even if that's true, you can't show up the next day. If this is true, have them offer you their hand and not shake it. Being the captain, you have to calm things down there. Your first duty there is to make sure there's peace, man. Come on, you're the captain, Valverde. It's about making sure there's peace. The next day, you supposedly don't shake his hand based on how things are. And then you go and make another tackle there in training. And then, if anything, you haven't done more than that. Because there's a war in the locker room. You go inside, already in the changing room. Does it encourage it or not? Because two people don't fight if one of them doesn't want to. Damn. And now we're going to listen to Miana's version on Cadena Ser, where he talks about how part of the locker room doesn't. That they're more on Chomenique's side than Valverde's because they think Valverde hasn't done well, especially given his position as captain. He says, this guy has a short fuse. This guy suddenly gets violent. Be careful with that. But well, it would support Valverde's version that Chomenique goes and lets it out. Well, if this is his friend, if this Macabala guy, or whatever his name is his friend, damn, he's provided the evidence. The photos that you say, hey, which ones are real photos today with artificial intelligence? No, it's that they've posted a video. The guy posted a video. Here it is on his account to Kababe, right? The guy posted this video. Look at it. Wait, damn, let me see now. He says, okay, this is me. This is my account. 1,300,000 followers on. Stop the video already. That's crazy. But damn, there's no pause here. Okay. This guy has 1,300,000 followers on Instagram. I don't even know who he is. Well, an influencer, I guess, lately anyway. And so, well, this guy posts it, says, hey, I'm not a liar. Here's the proof. He goes to Aurelien Chomenique's direct messages and shows the conversation. And it's like, well, at least he didn't post his voice messages here, right? Because here they are. Oh, no, well, the voice messages are from, no, here Chomenique is only writing. There's no audio. There are no voice messages. All right? Anyway, everything has been very surreal. I mean, yesterday was incredible, really incredible. Let's listen here to what Miana said on Sir Tomara.
Yes. Within this report by Reyes, there are two pieces of information that we have confirmed from direct sources in the ministry that I think are relevant. Confirmed the blow Valverde got to the head was very strong. They clearly told Valverde he is out. Beyond the ongoing investigation, beyond the disciplinary proceedings, they tell Valverde, you are on leave, you need to rest. Then in Madrid, they issue a statement after 9 at night, but they make it clear to Valverde at all times that the blow he took to the head was very strong, and then that it's within the usual tensions in a training session, and within those tensions. Maybe excessive in a training session, within what happens on the field. Many of Fede Valverde's teammates believe he went too far with Tchouaméni in this case. Valverde's behavior toward Tchouaméni during field training was excessive. They don't justify what happened, but they do explain it. The disappointment some in the locker room feel toward Fede Valverde is huge.
And just three more things, and then I'll give the floor to everyone so that the listeners know everything that has happened today regarding this. First, if I'm not mistaken, it was Real Madrid's statement where they announced that there would be disciplinary action against both players. In that statement, Real Madrid says they will keep us informed as the days go by about the decisions they make. I imagine this is an information. Madrid has said they are opening disciplinary proceedings against them. I think they won't play again for the rest of the season, and there will be a financial penalty, and we'll see what happens. Obviously, Valverde won't be able to play because that's the second statement Real Madrid has made. A medical statement, a medical report where they say that Valverde has a head injury. He'll be out for 10 to 14 days. Real Madrid confirms that in a statement in a medical report, which also came out this afternoon. This is after the disciplinary proceedings that Real Madrid said they are opening against both of them. Valverde also made a statement, but I won't read it all as it's long. It's available on our social media.
Well, Carreño is already giving a recap here. There's something here that Rodra mentions. He tells it to Iñaki Angulo this morning before knowing all of this. And of course, now let's move on to the Mbappé topic. I already believe anything that, well, it's not that I believe everything, right? But I do believe that anything can happen. Because the situation is so surreal that in that locker room, which is broken, absolutely shattered, completely falling apart, there's no leadership of any kind there. The captain does that, but let's see if the coach has stepped back. We'll find out more at the press conference. Tomorrow, Arbeloa, tomorrow, Saturday. Before Sunday's Clásico, let's see what he tells us. They said there might not be a press conference. There has to be one, or the league finds them, I think. Maybe they don't care and don't feed the circus here, but we've created the circus ourselves. Madrid has done it all on their own. Now they'll say, as Abraham Romero from El Mundo does, that the board claims it's a very immature squad. What could have happened? What could have happened, damn it? You fed a gremlin. You gave it water after midnight. And of course, what was once something very nice, very calm, very friendly, has now turned into one of those gremlins. Those of you who are my age, from my generation, will know what gremlins are. And if you don't, look it up on Google. Big ears like this, a creature, a monster, a monster. It's a monster. The locker room is now a monster. Everyone does whatever they want. And this is because you fed it after midnight and let it get wet, right? That's it. Now, what happened? What happened? You brought this on yourself. This is the consequence. That's what Rodra told Iñaki Angulo about Madrid's training sessions.
Sure, they're fun, but there's zero tactics. But he pointed that out, that there's zero tactical work. They're all exercises that the players like so that they're fun. Well, and all to encourage situations where there are no bad vibes. That's the picture they're painting for me.
Didn't it leak out from Alonso that Alonso was saying this was a daycare?
Yes, Marca published that, I think.
Well, this is what Rodra says. The same thing I tell you about everyone. Let's take it with a grain of salt for now. The thing is, there are things that we don't need to take with a grain of salt anymore. We have to take them as facts because it's clear that what happened, happened. For those who later say that journalists make things up, there are some who do make things up, of course, but I usually go by something that for me is pretty much definitive. And it's that when one person says it, well, for example, Miguel Serrano, my namesake, says that Arbeloa is called Cone by his own players. His players on the bench call him Cone and so on. And then the other guy found out. This is what Miguel Serrano is saying. I haven't heard anyone else say it. That's why if just one person says it, I leave it at that. Not that I don't believe Latigo, but if tomorrow this guy, Miguelito, and the others like Abraham Romero all say it, then I'd say, damn, then yes. It's about understanding a little how things work. There are a lot of insiders, a lot of people who follow Madrid. Rodra is a Madrid fan, for example. Meana isn't. I mean, there are also some people who are pissed off and all that, but that's why. It's like what we've always said as journalists about reading a lot of newspapers, not just the ones that confirm your bias, right? Whether you're on one side or the other, you read El País, El Mundo, ABC, Diario Público, and so on. So read a bit of everything. Lately, there's all kinds of stuff out there. Anyway, to form an opinion, well, it's kind of the same here. If you see everyone saying the same thing, there's probably something to it. Wow. Careful, I've only heard this from Rodra. That's why I say you always have to keep those things in the realm of possibility. And about Mbappé, here it is. I mentioned it in the first video of the day when we found out about this. And I said, hey, this thing about Mbappé seems very suspicious to me. Look, let's watch the video. There are people who a lot of people have already seen it, pretty much everyone. But let's watch it. This is Mbappé leaving Valdebebas. Leaving Valdebebas. He's with someone in the car. He's with someone, but I don't see anyone there. And when he passes by, let's see. Wait, I don't see anyone. Okay, Mbappé is a guy who, look, I've had ups and downs with him. All right, when back in 2022, when he stood us up, I was pissed off, obviously, like many Madrid fans. And then the moment he was going to come got closer. I always said he'd never really reach my Madridista heart, but if he wears the Real Madrid jersey, I'll support him. He arrives at Madrid and starts scoring goals. You see that he moves wherever the hell he wants and all that, but he starts scoring goals and more goals. And I say, how are we going to do without a guy who scores 40 goals? So have you seen how my feelings about Mbappé have changed a bit? We see footage of him making moves in matches, things a number 9 usually doesn't do. But watch, he stops here, then goes the other way. He doesn't take those positions here and doesn't pass to Vinicius in these instances, but usually he does pass to Vinicius. Hey, he has 41 goals, but very few assists, extremely few. You start to see some weird, strange things there. Yeah, the vacation with his girlfriend right in the middle of May really got me because I think it's a power play. And now this too, of course. With that background, you assume the worst. There are still people who don't think the worst of him, right? I've been changing, and honestly, it doesn't leave me very calm about the future because Mbappé won't be sold unless he forces it. It wouldn't be the first time he's challenged his club, right? It's always the same thing, man. And I don't know, these next few years after the things he's been doing, it's not, honestly, he's not a straight shooter. Okay? It happened in Lisbon with Benfica, with Prestiani, with Vinicius. Did you hear the way this guy talked? Man, the mind he has, because honestly, he's smart as hell. He's a guy whose mind works really well. And when it comes to communication, he's amazing and all that. Even those images. That strange accent he has when speaking Spanish, well, it seems charming if he's a nice guy. But with everything he's doing now, I'm really starting to not like him at all. This and that, considering who he is, how good he is at communicating and knowing what has happened, because he's always aware of everything. He knows everything going on around him, especially after what happened at Valdebebas Sports City. He comes out and what a coincidence, he rolls down the car window. What does he expect? It all seems strange. Who knows why, but I think he's setting it up so it looks fake. And just to make us speculate, he's always done the same thing. He's always sent these kinds of mysterious messages. Instead of that, damn, he should focus not just on scoring goals, which he does, but on running more, on obeying his coaches more. To be what he's asked to be the leader of the locker room, we would have, well, anyway, Maradona mixed with Cristiano, mixed with Messi, with Pelé. But he just doesn't fucking feel like it and chooses to do this. I don't like this one bit, man. I don't like it at all. Maybe he's listening to a joke, dude. Who knows? Maybe he's talking to his girlfriend. Maybe she's telling him a joke, whatever, because you can think of anything, but it's not normal. Window down, you know the press is there, you know what happened. Hey, go laugh on the M40, man. But there, when you're still there, come on, don't mess around. Well, he goes and does it. So I insist, be careful with this guy. This isn't a coincidence. Well, see you in the next one. Hope everything goes well for you. Give it a like if you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to the channel, comment, share, and that's it. Hala Madrid, despite everything. And despite these days, there are people who say, hey, the worse it gets, like Rajoy would say, the worse, the better. The worse, the better. Well, look, I don't know, because the worst would include losing along the way, and I don't want to lose under any circumstances. Naturally, I've never wanted Madrid to lose a match. Always. You always have to beat those who pay off referees. You always have to beat the cheaters, those who paid the head of refereeing for 2 decades. 8.4 million, of course, and sign up. Footballers registered out of time and with fake money, etc. But in everything else, you say, well, look, maybe so they can clean things up, right? In everything else, not that 2 players from the squad fight each other, because that's a terrible image. But I don't know. Let it be sorted out. That place is like a daycare, really. But even so, of course, all this hurts you, but let's win on Sunday. Hey, Madrid has been so crazy lately. They might just show up there and win. I don't think so, but who the hell knows? All right, see you in the next one. Bye. Bye.